Hey, this is Tiger. Welcome to my stream after a very hot summer day. With now the wind is blowing and the storm is coming. The Tour de France 2026 just ended in Paris. And we now know that this week that the Derby line will be released on Thursday. At least this is the plan as far as I know it. And we are going to play some trains in World 6 tonight. What are we going to play? We're playing a scenario with the RB145 expert locomotive where we encounter faults. At least this is what I hope will happen, because that's what the scenario tells us. It's a 5-star scenario, and we will see how difficult it's gonna be. Akura, moin and hello. So nice to see you on the chat. I put the disclaimer because I got the DLCs, or at least most of them, for free from DTG for being an ambassador. Yeah. The Derby line is going to be released this week. What are your thoughts on this, Akura? Faulty Friday. 1 hour 30. Let's see how this works. I have not played it before, as you can see. First, I'm gonna see it. By the way, we talked when we looked at the Baureihe 145 with the Bremszettel and the Wagenliste, and I said that there are no runs where we can see the 145 pulling passenger cars. Here is one scenario at any rate, and I checked. You can see the special section for passenger coaches marked. CD Raider said, did someone say Porucha? I said Tadami. And Aisu Wakamatsu. And I'm going to stream it on Wednesday, if nothing stops me. Steen Trainfest, Taranta Rampe, Birmingham. Yeah, those 3 DLCs, 90% off. That means you get it for like 2 or 3 or 4 bucks or whatever. Oakville, if you don't have it, the only Canadian one. Birmingham Cross City fits very well with the 2 latest releases, Birmingham to Crew and Milton Keynes to Crew. The connecting line, more or less 90% off. If you don't have it, grab it. It's no question. And the Taranta Rampe is a very beautiful one. Good evening. We are taking this freight train as far as Friedrichstadt today because of some construction work. We will loop around Dresden Neustadt. We're sitting here apparently at Leipzig at one of those low-riding main signal, as you can see now at the moment, showing a different indication. Insert the reverse key. You know, if we don't have the reverser in forward, we won't be able to put in any train data. So, what train data are we supposed to put in? Before we go through the scenario that more or less tells us what to put in, we have to check it out. What are we pulling? We're pulling freight, so we'll probably have to put in freight. The weight, our mass, is beyond the 800, below the 1200 for our consist. That means we have to put our brakes into G. We need some headlights, so let's put this there. But we have our train set in P. That seems to be correct. Between 800 and 1200 tons running the train in P. The loco in G makes a lot of sense to me. That means we have to put in what code for our first number in the train data. GP. It's the 4. Bremshundertstel, our brake percentage. What do we have? 481. With 81, we don't have so much to put in. With 81, we're just here where we can put in 80. Or if we are running Berlin-Hamburg, Berlin-Halle, Leipzig. It's just not our portion of the way. We will put in 80. And the speed that we're running on is Fahrplangeschwindigkeit 100. Here, by the way, you can also cycle through different timetable speeds if you want. We stay with the 100 because we have enough Bremshundertstel. And we will have 250. So let's see what the system is going to tell us. It was 480, 100, and the last number was 250. Let's see if we agree here. Open train number first. Here something is already put in. Is that correct? 45711. It is already put in. Well, I have to put it in again. 54, not 45711. And my driver ID, I just used 1 since I'm the only driver in my company. Open train data page. So, what did we say? 4 for the P brakes. And then they want to give it, they want to punch it into the GSMR first, I guess. Length. Let's put in anyway so that we see if we did it right. 4 stays with 4, 80, 100, and 150. If I did not lose the length of our train. Bestätigen. And I won't punch the Wachsamkeitstaste so that at 250 it was. So that I can still go through it once again. 4, 80, 100, and 250. Let's see if that works. Let's do what the scenario wants. They want us to punch in the train number in the radio. 54711. And register. Return here. Yeah, they want to do it by the book and guide us through it one by one. Oh yeah, I punched it in the wrong way. 250 the length and the 100 here. Obviously, good thing that you sometimes get corrected by your superiors. It's just the other way around. And now, thing is, if you're in the screen, then you cannot use the keyboard shorts for acknowledging. Main page. And now we go. Wurzen. Track 43. What is the speed limit here? Looks like a 40 to me. At any rate, I have to release the brakes first. And now let's see what happens.
Zugbeeinflussung. Zugbeeinflussung.
We actually got 1000 hertz from this signal here. Wasn't sure if we will get one from this low riding main signal. So 19 kilometers to Wurzen. Probably something will happen on the way. Der Klimaschützer IC. Why would I think that something will happen on the way? Well, with enough hints in the scenario title, even tigers can be clairvoyant. Signal gives us an 80. So now we are out of
Sifa.
and we actually go into the LZB, even with our freight train. Can see what kind of fuel or liquid we are actually transporting. Office nutzen, Klimaschützen. Yes, City Radar, you are right. And it even chimes with the umlaut. Öffis nützen, Klimaschützen. I am, but I have no idea what that means. It means you should use the public transports and protect the climate. Die Öffis is a very colloquial word for die öffentlichen Verkehrsmittel. What is the public transport? Well, and schützen is protect, and Klima is the climate. Did not even turn on the RFB for the LZB, so we are running actually without RFB, but that makes sense with our tank cars. So that's why Wiener Linien uses it so much. Yes. It's one of the reasons why you should use public transport. I was wondering why they always talk about offices so much. Well, it's not really a word in my vocabulary, to be honest. But apparently a lot of people call it the Öffis. That's our train. So if I actually get around to doing it, you will get the first dose of Japanese railway signaling on Wednesday night with the sneak peek on the Tadami line. But I already have to say, it is not that easy. Not only because reading the Japanese documents always involves a lot of throwing it into translator programs and trying to figure out what it means. But it's also a bit like in the United States, where every railway carrier uses their own signaling instructions and operating rules, and therefore sit on them and don't publish them, and they are apparently even more uptight than the American railroads, where you can even find, at least find some outdated versions for the, or older versions, even if they are still valid. With the Japanese railway carriers, maybe I just did not find them. The best that I found was from 1972 actually. All the rest that I found is probably very good, but second-hand stuff. Meaning some document relating what is in the original document. Akko, I can't imagine German talking people are talking about wirklich so much Kappa. So now that I don't have the IFB, I actually have to take care of my speed myself. Yeah. Like many languages in the world, German is sometimes a very weird language. And it differs so much between what you would read in a newspaper or in a book, or you would use yourself every day, and what people would use in certain circles, or what they would use for advertisements. And what you said about so much kappa. So, we're almost at Wurzen. Die Schnarre. Requires us to slow down to 60. But only in 3.5 kilometers. Still, since I did not know how fast this train will decelerate, we got the speed down quite early, what will annoy the signaler most probably, because now we're blocking the line for much longer than was expected. So, here are the corresponding signals for the indication on our LZB monitors. We did not need to acknowledge it because we are running under LZB. So technically we can ignore the signal speeds under LZB only. Red signals we will have to adhere to. The repeater also goes unacknowledged. Now the G light turns on. Show target speed. It goes to 0. But we still can go 60 at the wind. The G-light goes on to tell us that we should now bring down our speed. And it is already talking about the next speed point, not the 60 point, but the one that was hidden by the 60. Where we have to stop. Even on the siding here, we still have LZB guidance. Now the indicator for our target speed is coming down towards 0, and this is what in pressing show target speed was talking about. Klima IC is overtaking. This is why the centers into the siding most probably. But we can't stall here, so let's keep the speed above the 10 at least. And we will have to stop most probably, even though we could go on if we were low enough without stopping completely. At the red light. But the scenario wants us to go very close to that signal. Train is almost stopping by itself. As always, our priority is very low, so we will probably have to let some trains pass starting now. We already let the ETA pass, but apparently there are more to come. Okay, always a good instruction. Have a waiting star up. No, that was not a long wait. Signal is now dunkel geschaltet. We are still on LZB. We can pass on with 60. Alright. Let's start this train. Oh, now the green light appeared. Now 37 kilometers to Riesa. So I probably don't want to go beyond the 45 kilonewtons per traction motor and setting this train in motion again. We did not change our pantograph, as you can see. Transporting tank cars, we should probably use the front pantograph. So as soon as we got some speed, we should try to change that on the fly again. Let's see if there is a camera that actually connects to it. There is. Then I don't need to get up and risk getting caught by the SIFA. But first we need some speed.
SIFA.
Drives them nicely even with beyond 60 kilonewton per driving motor. So on with the train on speed or at speed. We probably want to change the pantograph setup. No idea if that is allowed while running. Now it is lowered at any rate. Now we can select the other one. It's probably that one. If we are actually sitting in the front cab. Bring it up again. Hauptschalter ist aus. The brake manual circuit breaker is still open. Now it is closed again. And we got the front one working. June Striker, Holden Avond to you as well. So, now let's try to get the train back to the speed of 100. So that it does not take us forever to get to Riesa. And let's hope that I did not destroy anything important by switching the pantograph on the fly. thundering off we are, and just into the overspeed or not, we will see. Yes, into the overspeed. That is the curse of the external shots. How many elephants can fit in a taxi, CD Radar asks. 4. He answers his own question then. 1 next to the driver and 3 in the back. How many giraffes can fit in a taxi? Not 1. There are a lot of elephants already. They're taking up all the space. How do you know if elephants are visiting you? A taxi is parked in front of the house. How do you put an elephant in the fridge? You open the door, put the elephant in, close the door. How do you put a giraffe in the fridge? You open the door, take the elephant out, put the giraffe in and close the door. Yes. A lion is holding an animal meeting, CD Razors. Which animal is missing? A giraffe. It's in the fridge. You have to cross a river where crocodiles live. How do you do it? You can swim across it without any problems because the crocodiles are at the meeting. Oh yeah. When you're driving your trains, are you telling your passengers that on the PA system? I remember when I heard those jokes when I was at school, but now they evolved into a context, as I can see. Liebe Fahrgäste, this is June Striker. Liebe Fahrgäste, und um Ihnen die heutige Verspätung unseres U-Bahn-Zuges etwas zu versüßen, werde ich Ihnen jetzt einige Fragen stellen. Lats Ross, yo, been enjoying your streams, he says. Thank you so much. If you're down, would you be cool to chat sometime? Add me on Discord. So, Fiax. Yes, I can send you an invite. Then you can come on my server and I'll be available. Thank you, CD Radar. Just I can sit. And the rest you can join us on the run with Tiger. Yeah, maybe. Junestrike ist aufgrund einer Giraffe auf der Strecke. Verzögert sich die Weiterfahrt um wenige Minuten. Wir müssen warten, bis der vorfahrtsberechtigte Elefant den Kühlschrank verlassen hat, um Platz für die Giraffe zu machen. Alle Anschlussmeetings werden voraussichtlich erreicht. Liebe Passagiere, das ist schon sehr. Wir haben jetzt eine Verspätung von etwa 55 Minuten aufgrund ein Elefant in der Tür eingeklemmt ist. In Germany would say, sehr geehrte Fahrgäste, unser Zug hat derzeit eine Verspätung von 55 Minuten. Grund dafür ist eine Türstörung aufgrund eines eingeklemmten Lebewesens. Ich darf Sie bitten, in die Gänge weiterzugehen und nicht im Türbereich stehen zu bleiben, damit der Elefant sich umdrehen und den Türbereich wieder verlassen kann. It's always a wenige Minuten announcement for at least cancelling the service. Sehr geehrte Fahrgäste, unsere Weiterfahrt verzögert sich um wenige Minuten. Next announcement, liebe Fahrgäste, sehr geehrte Fahrgäste. Unsere Weiterfahrt verzögert sich erneut um wenige Minuten. Sehr geehrte Fahrgäste, unser Zug wird jetzt zurückgesetzt und kehrt in den Ausgangsbahnhof zurück. Bitte wählen Sie eine der angezeigten Alternativen. Wir bitten um Entschuldigung. Every German hears this in their sleeps. Wir bitten um Entschuldigung. Yes, that is true. That's what they say. Well, you have to admit, a lot of times, I really paid attention, but when the trains were late in the past weeks and months, quite often it was because of some idiots stumbling around on the tracks. Because of emergency on the track. And it's really hard to, well, expect the train running company to prevent this. But then there are other cases. Unbefugte Personen auf der Strecke. This is exactly what I'm talking about. But the best and always funny reason for being late ist, Grund dafür ist eine Verspätung aus vorheriger Fahrt. The reason for our delay is the delay that we had before. And one person is collecting all the different delay reasons announcement audio because there are so many. Yeah. Well, maybe there is even a default button where you can punch in something. Something new. Der Zug verspätete sich aufgrund des Verlusts eines Kohleschaufelpackers, okay. I have not heard that one. In the Netherlands, they don't tell you why it's delayed. Well, this is something they came up a couple of years ago, thinking that passengers would be less annoyed if somebody told them the reason for the delay, because, well, when passengers complained that the trains are always late or are often late, they said they could at least tell us why they are late. Aqua, I don't get why they are still selling tickets for the ICE with Zugbindung when it is removed after Kassel or Leipzig, depends on the service. Well, there are ICE services where you actually can run on your booked ticket. They're getting fewer and far between, I guess, but some of them are still there. The shadow is a good diagnostic of the pantograph. Yes, you're right. Would not even need the outside cameras for it. So I wonder what's gonna happen. Will they actually let us run to Riesa without anything happening? Except for us telling all the old delay jokes. When the train that departed later than you overtakes you. Yeah. This is always the question, will I take the S-Bahn or will I take the Regional Express? One of them is leaving earlier, the other one is obviously faster. But you never know which one actually arrives on time and which doesn't. A modern fairy tale. This Aqua. Yeah, guys, I'm really looking forward to discussing the army with you on Wednesday. If everything goes to plan. And then it's already almost August, and in 2 or 3 weeks' time there will be the office meetup at Dovetail offices. And the Dovetail Direct will be happening soon. And then we know a lot more what we can be hyped about. That is the end of the LZB. We pressed our release key, the yellow light got steady, since we don't run on AFB, we don't have to fiddle about with the Nullstellung of the AFB lever. Just acknowledge the LZB end with the release key. And now we wait for the transition to PZB.
Zugbeeinflussung.
Here we are. Now we have to watch out for the signals again. June Striker. Oh no, is that already a year ago? Damn, yeah, it is. Years go by so fast these days. And the next iteration, the next incarnation, the next version of this beautiful game is maybe to be announced or not. Nobody knows yet. Well, a lot of people know. I actually don't, so I can speculate. Yeah, but something we will actually learn from the Dovetail Direct, and almost minutes before. And then there is Gamescom at the end of August. Nakura says, oh, the two circles are the Zugschlusslichter of my personal Tadami hype train. I've wanted too long, but if it is released, I'll be hyped again. Well, I actually had the idea that we should hype some older routes or older locomotives as if they were just released. Or about to be released, because sometimes it is actually annoying me how after hyping something so badly, half an hour after release, the product is forgotten already. Nobody's talking about it again, but talking about the next hype. We got a flashing yellow, by the way. Would announce the 60 or 40 on the next signal. And it is, as it seems, a 40, since we don't see a yellow band on the lower side of the signal. And the next signal will be a slow one again.
Zugbeeinflussung.
HL signals, beautiful signals in Eastern Germany. We have videos about almost everything that we encounter here. HL signals, LZB obviously, train data input, brake sheet, and wagon list. Yes, throwback Sundays where older routes were mentioned again. Why not? Being in this ambassador business now is even more hypey than it was before in a way. You know, a couple of days before the release when it's gonna happen, and you have an early access of a couple of days, and your embargo runs out. You do your stuff, and then you are already looking what the next release will be. I actually had to slow myself down a bit here and enjoy the good parts of the products, even if this means that I cannot cover every product. 40 and stop, the signal says.
Zugbeeinflussung. Zugbeeinflussung.
And CD Radar, yes. Thank you for posting the website again. I have to make sure that AJ actually puts up the latest videos again. The last that we actually updated was after the Czech route release. It's been some days, and I did some educational videos since then. Time for a Train World Academy playlist, a website with a compilation and overview of the presentations. Yes! This is why you posted it, thank you. Yeah, it exists. And it's actually in a rather organized way. Also with the train tech, different countries, signaling, safety. Systems and other stuff. And now that we have Japanese signaling, that is actually a good reason to update it once more. But everything that I mentioned can be found on this website. So we've got 500 Hertz. That means we actually have to slow down. Approaching the next signal. And if at all possible, stop. We're actually stopping short because I thought, oh, let's see how the train brakes, but the train brakes really nicely. Running so slow puts us in a restricted 500 Hertz. You can see the 70 and the 85 indicator flashing alternatingly. With a red marker for the 500 on my dashboard. That tells us that the train is at the moment controlled by the PCB system to 25, and we have to be not faster than 20. And here we are. Not faster than 20. And again, a star is telling us to wait. A bit sadder with this heavy light. We cannot really see the redness of the signal. From the signal screen you can see that we are in HL signaling territory. We have the SH1 or RA12 signal as it is called in the east, arranged around the red light. Dispatcher just informed us that before Coswick we will be overtaken by a higher priority freight train. Alright. Go ahead. Radebeul-Zitscheweg. This is probably where we have to stop. But this is behind Coswig. Yo, wait for signal to change. Signal to the left is green, or it is not green, but it is allowing 60 and slow. At least it shows a proceed aspect, so probably there will be a train coming from that direction. Stop. I'm switching to the direct brake. This should be enough and we can release our brake properly already. While we are waiting. Oh, actually it is a Talent 2 coming in. How many services did I play with a Talent 2 here? Riesa, Dresden. A freight talent. With living cargo. So, how was your weekend, everybody? Asks the radar while we are waiting at the red signal. Foxtrot 80. It does not allow us to progress. Well, I actually worked a lot yesterday. Been out with a dog in the woods for quite some time, and then I worked. Okay, 40 and stop, it says the signal. Then we will try to start this train again. Not faster than 20 until the red lamp goes off. We will get a new 1000 Hertz when we pass this signal, if it does not change the aspect. So careful.
Zugbeeinflussung. Zugbeeinflussung. Zugbeeinflussung.
Here's our yellow 1000 Hertz lamp. Now that red lamp is off and the yellow one is on, we can theoretically accelerate to 40 with the restricted 1000 Hertz. But since we are approaching a red light again, we probably won't go faster than 30. What is the end speed after the 500 Hertz? We also have a video about those orange W indicators. Wartezeichen they are called, and this is what the video is called. Low standing main signals and Wartezeichen, I think. Since we are not a shunting service, they are not really relevant for us. But still they are nice, and there are so many of them here. So now the restrictedness of our 1000 Hertz monitoring ended. We only have the 70 indicator flashing. That means we could go back to 80, but we got, as we had expected, another 500 Hertz. When we get the 500 Hertz in PCBM, what we are running under, we mustn't be faster than 45. And then we have to drop to 30. Can see the red light. I think that is ours. Here's another GPA. a speed control section. We dropped into the restricted 1000 Hz, the restricted 500 Hz. Now we're controlled to 20 again. And now the signal changed. It's again a caution signal. Halt erwarten. That means we're getting a new 1000 Hz. Even though the 500 ended before we passed the signal actually.
Zugbeeinflussung.
And now it ended at all.
Zugbeeinflussung.
Now we got a new one. Restricted 1000 Hz allows us to go 40. But we mustn't forget the next signal is supposed to be red, or we must expect it to be red, so we cannot go that fast. What we do, just in case our game crashes, is we save that stuff for once. Even though saving with the expert locomotive is sometimes a weird experience. Well, not the saving, but the reloading, obviously. Now with this light we actually cannot see our indicators. A bit weird, isn't it? We have to wait for some shadow. Then we can read the indicators properly. But I think they are still flashing alternatingly. And mustn't forget that we are approaching a red signal. Maybe we get a 500 Hz again. But I would think...
Sifa.
Not getting a 500, and this is not our signal. What is consistent with it? Pulling the blind down actually helps a bit, at least with the upper row. The lower row, no, it's actually something else. Coming from a different direction.
Sifa.
So, by going that slowly, we might actually have given the other train enough time to go ahead, and now our signal is green. I think at least that this is our signal. Yes, I'm quite confident. Now I can release from every monitoring and go to my line speed of 100, what is not actually the line speed, but what is my timetable speed. But don't overdo it, because the next signal is already yellow again. It's a distance signal.
Zugbeeinflussung. Zugbeeinflussung.
And we have to drop to 65 according to a brake curve. Then be not faster than 45 when we hit the 500 hertz. At the end of the 500 hertz, be not faster than 20. So well, that was a joke. Now the signal is green again. And we can't release because the yellow lamp is still on. The repeater, you can see it's one of the Eastern repeater with the sign instead of the white light. We cannot go faster than 80 at the moment, but 80 we can, and now we can release since the yellow lamp is off.
Zugbeeinflussung.
Since we've seen that the main signal is showing a Fahrt aspect, a clear aspect, and we don't expect another monitoring, we can pump it back up to our timetable speed of 100. Always with the risk, obviously, that at the next distance signal we get a yellow again. That is not for us, that is one from behind. That is the junction to Röderau, I think. If I did not confuse the names. Where some of the cranes are starting. And ending. What is so great about Leipzig Dresden is that you can actually spend a lot of time on this route, right? Even when you're only going from one end to the other. It's really a huge chunk of track. What comes closest to an experience like when you get in SimRail, that you're actually in a map and not only in a tube going from left to right and right to left. I actually cannot read this signal, can you? It looked green.
Zugbeeinflussung.
But I'm not entirely sure.
Zugbeeinflussung.
No, it was not green, and now we're getting Hauptschalter off. Main circuit breaker.
Störung, Störung, Störung. Kühlfreigabe, Kühlfreigabe, Kühlfreigabe.
There's Störung, well, we don't get any Störungstext because, well, Hauptschalter aus ist Hauptschalter aus. We have to roll through until we are supposed to turn it on again. Our Hauptschalter, our main circuit breaker. And in the meantime, our signal cleared. I should mute the Discord, yeah, and then take S1 to my... And then we should be able to go over to the Czech Republic and run on there. We can release.
Zugbeeinflussung.
And I am muting the Discord. Those are actually the situations that are a bit challenging, being on a heavy train and getting a surprising 1000 hertz in a section where you have to turn off the main circuit breaker or even get your pantograph down. I hope this talent moved out of the way now. We still don't know whether we are going on the avoiding route that the ICE trains take, or whether we are going the regular route across the hill. But we will find out soon enough. It is actually not really far from Dresden to the Czech Republic. And we could just get a boat and run the Elbe upstream until it gets the Elbe, and we're there. Do not even need a train for it. But on the train it is probably much more convenient. Falling leaves coming in through the windscreen. And CD Radar says, and if you continue upstream the Elbe, we will eventually run into him. That is nice. Now I thought the game is supposed to crash. Now we are passing Weisenhain. No, not Weisenhain, something with Wurzen. Chemical works, where you can do a lot of shunting in this DLC. With all this bumping, I want to save my game in case we need to go back. So 3 routes that are actually candidates for being hyped, because they are mainly forgotten.
Zugbeeinflussung. Zugbeeinflussung.
And very, very cheap.
Zugbeeinflussung.
discounted at the Steam sale at the moment, 90% off. Oakwell subdivision. The Taranto-Rampe from Dresden to Chemnitz and Birmingham Cross City, so I'm telling you because I would be so hyped if I had those routes not yet, and it's always nice to grab something beautiful for a low price. Even though the baby bullet will never run on the Oakwell subdivision. And even though the Taranto-Rampe should get a remaster. And even though the Cadbury chocolate on Birmingham Cross City has been eaten years ago. There is a lot of love in those DLCs, a lot of nice things. One of the more arcane videos that I made at the beginning of my streaming venture is a two-parter about one scenario on Oakwell subdivision where I played forever because one of the ethanol loading stations did not work, and I had to figure out a way how to get my tank cars filled at a different station without breaking the scenario. And I played forever and ever and finally succeeded. I remember that was around the time when we first introduced Hank. And by the way, now we know that we're going the avoiding line. This is the part of the track where a couple of lines actually intertwine. You have the line going to Großenhain that you can actually play services on. And the divided lines, one for the high-speed trains and one for the regular traffic normally. And then at Dresden you again have the branch to Meißen, and you have two ways to get to Dresden main station via Friedrichshain or via Radebeul. So Coswig is quite a switchboard there. Just a shame that the signaling is actually even a bit more weird in some aspects than it was on Dresden Riesa. Slowdown to 120 is not really
Zugbeeinflussung.
phasing us a lot. So, now a turn to the right in an uphill.
SIFA.
So, this is the last bend before we get to the grade. Now it is downhill.
Zugbeeinflussung. Zugbeeinflussung.
Slow down to 60. Better start with full brakes. And release them. Then the other way around.
Zugbeeinflussung.
They announce 60, and here is the 60.
Zugbeeinflussung.
Here we know why we had to slow down to 60, because we're going across a switch. Line that has a line speed of 160 for the high-speed trains. What we have to expect, we still have to find out. Those signals are for the opposite direction. Nobody actually gave us permission to do a wrong direction run. Now we are getting one. Here you can see this indicator allowing us to go on the left track on the wrong side. But at the same time, we should actually be allowed to increase our speed to 100 again. Even though we are on the wrong track. Now that we are on the wrong track, we're not getting that many signals. Haha, now we're getting overtaken, see? This time not while waiting at the siding, but while slumming it on the opposite track. That's a nice touch. I wonder what makes the other train so special that it got priority over us. This looked totally like our train. So, let's see when we are allowed back into the proper track or whether we are supposed to go on. Now we're actually getting a distance signal. It's 80. No, it's 130. That is probably not the speed for the switch. Go back to the correct track. The R indicates us that we are routed to Radebeul. That was to be expected. Okay. And finally we're getting
Türfreigabe, Türfreigabe, Türfreigabe. Zugbeeinflussung, Zugbeeinflussung, Zugbeeinflussung.
a KS2 with 130 and R.
Störung,
Alright.
Störung, Störung.
What happened now? Antrieb, Steuergerät. I wonder. Mit Fahrschalter zweimal quittieren. It's hard to hit. If it doesn't work, go on with one only. Okay. And tell the Betriebsleitung. It seems to have worked. $113, not 13. Yes, you're right. But sometimes I just shorten it. Mustn't forget that we are still running under caution. But we are still running under caution. We don't have to stop here.
Zugbeeinflussung, Zugbeeinflussung.
But it seems that in 1000 kilometers where we have to stop, the signal is still red. Okay, we can go a bit faster until we get there, but don't overdo it. To the left you can see the tracks that you're typically coming from Kosvik if you're going to Radebolzitschewik. And now we are merging with that line again. Looks like we got a fault in the most unfortunate position, and ECE wants to pass this way, and you know how they love waiting for a freight. Let's get to fixing the fault quickly. Figure out what's wrong. Press scroll down. It says there are no Störungen vorhanden. So we don't have a MVB connection. But the scenario expected something else, I guess. The scenario itself is in fault. Maybe this is because I flipped one of the ASGs. There is one circuit breaker that is actually flipped. Maybe that is the reason why we don't have an MVB connection. Let's see. Yeah, that fixes it. Ha.
Bremsausfall. Störung.
Alright. At least they got the MVB back, where is some sort of a bus system in the locomotive where all the systems are communicating with each other. If I'm not wrong. But still we cannot get into the scenario. The GSMR is reloading it. Bremsausfall, we have a depleted brake pipe, so much is obvious. But we're not getting any error messages. So, what can we do to... The signal output fuse is something that we need to close, according to the scenario. But... So that was what was supposed to be happen. But we should get some reading here, I guess. Turn off the battery supply on the loco and on again. Maybe it works. Maybe it does diddle 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 diddle. So, wow, this is the battery supply. Off. Kein Führerstand besitzt. Because we turned off the battery supply. And we don't have overhead current at the moment. Turning it on again. Let's see what happens. Sweet. The Ebola is getting started. Now we gotta wait a bit for everything to initialize and boot up. Start up the loco again. Well, let's see if it starts up again. And then we're going to Dresden Friedrichstadt, track 209. Well, we can't do this if the scenario does not progress. Well, what can we do to progress the scenario in case it does not go on in itself? Maybe we would produce some arrows that do not go too deep into the fabric. And then we can actually scroll down. Wow. Opening the door in my own face doesn't really work. But those are all good. Electric fan blower. I'm looking for something like the wiper fuses or so, because open the fuse that the scenario wants me to close. That would have been the one for the signal exchange, and we closed it already. And we would have to open and close it again, but then was it this one? The 0 voltage signal output was open. At any rate, we're getting brake pipe pressure again. In so much it worked. Funny thing is, it told us here that the MBB did not work, but it did not give us a problem on the Störungsübersicht. We don't have any train data. What is normal? The thing is I need to progress the scenario somehow. So we could obviously open the thing again.
Störung.
Now we have something. But this is only the message that the pressure in the main reservoir is not enough. And we're not running our
Störung.
Yeah, we don't have enough pressure in the main reservoir because the compressor is not working as it seems. What is not surprising because we don't have connection to the overhead catenary. But we can do that. Where is the wipers? Mitrag-Eingaben. Does that produce an additional error?
Störung.
Yes.
Störung. Störung. Störung.
But I scroll down and it is still not progressing on something else. Me. Okay, this has been fixed. I guess the other one we can fix by getting the panto up. But nice noise. There is no shadow diagnostic now. Panto we heard. And we can close the main circuit breaker. And then we should have a compressor again. And
Störung. Störung. Störung.
that should actually increase our main reservoir pressure again. I can hear some hissing. And this will probably fill the main reservoir again. Do I have a route, by the way? I have a route where I can stop. So I can try, even with the scenario not progressed. You can see the main reservoir pressure going back towards the 10 bars. The other idea would be actually to open the 0-volt signal output thing again.
Störung. 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 Grenzausfall. Störung. 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 Störung.
Oh, did you see? For a really short time, we had a lot of messages, and then all of them vanished. You should be faster with scrolling down. Maybe we can kick the scenario then. Problem is now we have to do all that shit again. To have it get working again. And wait for the initializing. Did you see those lines? Sweet. And maybe you should apply the parking brake. Never know how much more pressure we're losing from our brake system at the moment. The direct brake is holding us well. Brake pipe to 0 is typically ensuring that the train won't move an inch. Maybe if we play it this way around and open this thingy.
Bremsausfall. Störung, 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 Störung.
I can scroll down as long as I want. It does not move it on. Let's see if we get our brakes back. But I guess we're not getting the brakes back before we do the release with the... So, reboot the thing again, and then we just run without the scenario progressing, and probably we won't make it, but at any rate, we can end up where we are supposed to end. There are even more switches. Well, the people in the EC behind us are probably extremely happy about what we're doing here. Grund dafür ist eine fehlende Progression bei den Szenariovorgaben. Can always tries to turn on the marker, so maybe I'm actually looking at the wrong scroll down thingy. No, it is the correct scroll down thingy. But it does not progress it anyway. Anyway, let's get the loco running. Look at that. Nobody called us. Okay, we got our brakes back. We don't have a compressor yet. Now we've got our panto back. Cooling fan automatic. Close the main circuit breaker. Now we should get the compressor back. Let's not even get a low reservoir thing. Release the parking brake. Okay. Now we need train data again. That is what we are supposed to have. Now we have train data. And even though the scenario does not progress, we get the green light not only on the signal, but also from the signal. Let's see if we can get some traction. Yes, well. Then we move the train, even though the scenario does not want to adjust. Maybe it will adjust after a while. If not, we just get the train to Friedrichshain.
Zugbeeinflussung.
From what I've seen, we're actually going all the way around. Not here, obviously, because we already missed that one. Switch for the 80. As soon as the train is through, we should be able to go 100 again. You can go now, my friend. We're still squatting on the fast line. It must annoy everyone around us.
Seefahrt.
So nice, we could repair the fault in the train, but we were not able to repair the fault in the scenario. Nevertheless, we tried to get to our destination, whether the scenario ends then or not is a different story. We are on track, as it seems. Wasn't there a button in the previous game to skip the scenario objective? Or am I remembering wrong? I think there was something like this, but... This might be in a god mod or something like this. Such a button would come in handy totally. Oops. Actually starts flashing if you hit the button. What I would also really appreciate would be a time jump function.
Zugbeeinflussung. 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 Zugbeeinflussung.
Oh, we're going down here, look. This is a path that we actually have not taken in quite a while.
Türfreigabe, Türfreigabe, Türfreigabe.
Yeah, maybe my fiddling with the Antriebssteuergerät before somehow disturbed the scenario. It must have been the first scroll down in the error message log. But on the other hand, I did not need to scroll down because there was only one. So going through this yard, we get to this yard without having to go through Neustadt station. But the pathing is really nice in this scenario. Still keeping us to 40. Now we're going back up to the main line, just outside of Dresden Neustadt. And only to branch off to the right to Friedrichstadt Yard again. This is Dresden Neustadt.
Zugbeeinflussung. Zugbeeinflussung.
Crossing the Elbe. The golden donkey. Now the bridge across the Elbe. The Frauenkirche, Semperoper, Congress Center. We can go 60, we'll have to slow down to 40 again.
Zugbeeinflussung. Zugbeeinflussung.
We're passing the cigar factory. Dresden Mitte hier. Very nice city full of historical buildings, yes. Now we're going into Friedrichstadt Yard. This is Dresden Mitte. Look at this. There was a number missing. An HL repeater after a KS distance signal.
Zugbeeinflussung. Zugbeeinflussung. Zugbeeinflussung.
40 expects stop.
Zugbeeinflussung.
Friedrichstadt Yard.
Kühlfreigabe. Kühlfreigabe. Kühlfreigabe.
And now we don't know by the scenario how far we can go. We have to find out. Yeah. Just before the signal, as it seems. Here's the distance signal. What is actually doubling it up.
Zugbeeinflussung. Zugbeeinflussung. Zugbeeinflussung.
Since we already got the distance signal information from the last signal. Reliable beyond hope. Yeah, and I guess now I will have to stop in front of the next red signal that I see here on this very empty and very huge yard at Friedrichstadt. We don't see a countdown this time, so have to pay a bit of attention. But we are slow anyway.
SIFA.
there is no signal far and wide that we can see at the moment. See if it is actually one for our direction, not for the opposite one. No, it is for us. Maybe it's one of those low standing ones. Yeah, it is one of those low standing ones. Yeah, this is ours. Can you see this red dot? Guess this is where we have to stop the train.
SIFA. SIFA.
This is actually a bit close to the signal. Let's see if we can do that. If not, if we spat out, well, then this is what happens. So what's wrong? Why I'm not getting any power anymore? Ah, because the electric brake got stuck in its position.
SIFA.
Okay. This objective cleared. The path vanished. We stopped. But the scenario does not let us out. It is still stuck in scroll down. And I can scroll down as much as I want. It does not do anything. Alright guys, I'm afraid I cannot present you with the satisfying sound of a scenario fulfilled. We got the train where it is supposed to end. Maybe my changing of the pantograph, maybe my fiddling with the driving controllers got the scenario disturbed. At any rate, we fixed the fault that was in the scenario. We got the loco running again, even without the direction in the scenario. The only thing that we can't do is scroll down in our error list. You can turn objective marker on to see what button it wants to press. Yes, I did this before when we were still waiting for it, where I can do it again. And it was the objective marker. Now, yeah, see. It's this scroll down button. But it's not accepting the input. Short, long, well. At any rate, this is a nice scenario. Maybe if you don't fiddle about that much as I did with the locomotive before, you can actually run it through and get the reward in the end. I actually do not remember anyone saying about an error of that kind here. Well, we have to play it again sometime. Well, it takes some time, and nevertheless, it is a nice scenario. Great routing in a great DLC, Leipzig Dresden, on a great route. Our RB145 expert locomotive. It's faulty Friday, while the only fault that we couldn't fix is the fault in the scenario. Or, well, whatever we have. You tried to turn it off and on again. The what? Turn it off and on again. The display. I did that. The scenario indicator, I don't know. It just does not go beyond scroll down. My PC, everything. Well, I will turn down the PC now, but I won't turn it on before tomorrow, I guess. No, not the PC. Yeah, I guess the fault with the Antriebssteuergerät was not in the scenario. It was because I was applying too much power before the brakes had released properly. So I had to fix this, and fixing this probably took this scrolling out of the range of possibilities that we have now with a scripted fault. At any rate, locomotive worked as it was supposed to work. The scenario is always a different story. Well, I enjoyed it anyway. Hope you did not begrudge the time that you invested into this stream now. And Dresden, Leipzig, it is always a DLC that people think it's a bit boring and a bit dated, but it's actually so much that it provides for task failed successfully. Like always, you're just like Vapors task. The Vapors. You failed. Next message. You did it. Blowing. End of the story. Good. That's with our scenarios, right? On Wednesday, if everything goes according to plan, I will be back with Japanese signaling and the Tadami line. As much as I can gather from the Japanese sources. And yeah, there is a lot of signaling happening on the Tadami line, more in terms of signs than in terms of light signals, but a couple of light signals there are some safety systems, and we will discuss the safety systems in a second stream about Tadami on Wednesday. hope everything goes as planned. We will have our early access, sneak preview, whatever you want to call it. The early unboxing, and let me turn off this marker again. This makes me almost aggressive if I have all those markers sitting around in my view. Much better. Guys, thank you so much. Have the greatest of weeks. And see you on Wednesday. Bye-bye.